Choices, choices, choices. Which president will we put behind this desk? Or does it really matter? Could there be another choice? This year and in past elections, there's one thing that remains overlooked by the American people. The 14th Amendment, put in place by the Reconstruction Acts. Regardless of who's sitting behind the desk, be it Romney, Obama, a write-in like Ron Paul, Democrats, or Republicans, one thing still remains the same. This office still holds the power provided by the 14th Amendment. So, why is this amendment so important? Most people believe in U.S. citizenship. In fact, most people are proud to be called U.S. citizens. Many people today believe that the federal government is over the state governments and that the federal government is the higher authority. However, if we take a trip back through time to the Reconstruction Acts, about 2 years after the Civil War, we'll discover that it was the other way around. The federal government was created by the states, and the states maintained ultimate sovereign authority. The people living in each state were called state citizens, and their citizenship of their state was predominant. Also, the federal government had no authority over the citizens of each state. Before Reconstruction, the United States was a union of many individual sovereign states. Each state had total authority within its borders based upon the choices of the citizens. America thrived and liberty prevailed. With Reconstruction and the 14th Amendment, we became a nation of one. State sovereignty and state rights were eliminated. Citizenship was nationalized and the federal government gained control over the states and the citizens. Federalist Paper number 39 said, "A national government involves not only an authority over the individual citizens, but an indefinite supremacy over all persons and things." In other words, Congress now has indefinite supremacy over all persons and things. James G. Blaine, in 20 Years of Congress, said that the 14th Amendment distinctly reversed the origin and character of American citizenship, and that the consequences that flowed from this radical change in the basis of citizenship were numerous and weighty. I would tend to agree with Mr. Blaine. Back to our floating heads and the president's desk. No matter how many times we vote, or even if we turn out in huge numbers, the power of the 14th Amendment stands firm, authorizing Congress to make decisions for all states on things like abortion, gay rights, no prayer in schools, health care, drug laws, and more, forcing these decisions on us, the subjugated U.S. citizens. So instead of focusing on voting, let's look at the cause and effect, Reconstruction and the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment nationalized citizenship, making us citizens of Congress as opposed to a citizen of a sovereign state. Remember the quote, indefinite supremacy? Under this U.S. citizenship status, Congress has complete control. The 14th Amendment is the only congressionally coerced amendment in the history of our country. In fact, through the Reconstruction Acts, Congress made the passage of the 14th Amendment a requirement for states in order to seat representatives. The Reconstruction Acts were passed 2 years after the Civil War and a year after peace was declared, over President Johnson's veto, and the acts opposed the original object of the war. This legislation annulled pre-existing states in the South and in the North, peopling them over again with U.S. citizens having drastically limited rights. Remember Blaine's statement? He said the consequences that flowed from this radical change in the basis of citizenship were numerous and weighty. And they were. The Reconstruction Acts were a blatant violation of the Constitution on a number of different levels. And to this very day, these violations have never been adjudicated, meaning that American courts have never ruled on the constitutionality of this legislation. So what do we do with this information? Let's shift our focus from these guys to this guy, the people, specifically you. You know your original state was annulled. You're no longer a state citizen as the founders set it up. You're now a U.S. citizen. Your current state is a federal satellite with no sovereignty and no state rights. Ultimately, in the matter of lawmaking and deciding how your government is run, Congress calls the shots, and your liberty and freedom are restrained. And all of these things are a result of the unconstitutional Reconstruction Acts, and this was committed by people with oaths to the Constitution. Now, the United States Supreme Court has defined an unconstitutional act. They say an unconstitutional act is not a law, and it creates no office. This is very important. We see from this that not only are we not required to obey unconstitutional laws, but legally speaking, laws which are unconstitutional are actually not laws to begin with. Keep this in mind as we now attempt to come up with a solution to these issues beyond the voting booth. Originally, the general order of authority in America was first God, then state citizens, states, and then the federal government on the bottom. Reconstruction and the coerced 14th Amendment resulted in an overthrow of America's foundation. The creators are now the subjects, and the moral foundation of our laws is no more. Our current system of states and government isn't broken to simply be mended with a vote, but its enforcement and our obedience and participation in it represents a usurpation of power, a revolution. To reverse the effects and remedy America, we must pursue a peaceful counter-revolution. Remember how Congress can force decisions onto the people? Well, we have to work backwards on this path to begin following lawful government. Instead of checking a box every 4 years in a system built on fraud and unconstitutional actions, we must exercise our right to re-establish our states and reclaim our right to state citizenship. We must reclaim what was taken from us. It starts with you. Your lawful state constitution is already there. It's just lying dormant. It needs participants. It needs state citizens. Get together with like-minded individuals, reclaim your status, and reestablish your state. First, do a declaration of reestablishment. Second, elect officers. And third, repopulate or fill up your state with others who wish to begin asserting their right to lawful government. For a good example of this and some initial results, check out ncrepublic.org to see what's been done in North Carolina. Now, what does this do? Well, because our original states were illegally overthrown, along with the state citizenship status, reclaiming these states and our lawful status creates an injured party, a legal foundation on which to mount a peaceful resistance to this linchpin of constitutional violations, the Reconstruction Acts. This puts the responsibility of restoring the country back into the hands of those who first created it, the people. Individuals on the front lines of this battle would begin separating out and removing themselves personally from things which are required or restricted of U.S. citizens, but are not required or restricted under the laws of his reestablished state. Just like our founders, we would be standing up for our own liberty. As a result, court cases would ensue, public awareness would escalate, and with it, more would enter the battle for our states. At critical mass, a snowball effect occurs, and the movement, the counter-revolution, experiences rapid expansion. Behind the front lines, each state pushes the fight, protects its citizens, grows in number, and with time, takes on various government responsibilities. Other supporting individuals offer monetary support, logistics, and organization, and to spread news about this exciting remedy. It was once said, "It does not require a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority keen to set brush fires in people's minds." The current population of the United States is about 311 million. It is believed that with the participation of just 0.5%, or about 1.5 million people, a counter-revolution movement could prove successful. Then, as numbers grow, the original states shine through, becoming the widely recognized body politics. America once again has state citizens in the self-governing setting of demi-sovereign states as originally established. States again have their ultimate authority and their own laws chosen by their citizens, with liberty being the goal. And the federal government is once again limited to its effect upon the states or the people, regardless of which president is in office. Not only would this system result in liberty for all of the states as they were originally founded, it also opens up the door for free market competition between the states, resulting in an economic boom throughout America. So, we have a choice to make. We can continue with business as usual, or we can begin thinking outside the box to remedy America and take control of our own future and the futures of our children. What will you choose?